Messiah, you have the phenomenon of the Apostle Paul. Paul himself was a Jew, was a Pharisee, was apparently a strict and highly religious Jew who, because of the vision that he had of Jesus, came to think that Jesus had been raised from the dead. Paul came to think, apparently maybe at his conversion, right after his conversion, came to think that Jesus' death was absolutely the key to salvation, to being made right with God. And that since Jesus' death is what made people right with God, nothing else had any relationship to being right with God. It was only the death and resurrection of Jesus that mattered. Paul had been raised as a law-observant Jew who thought that the law really mattered. But he came to think that when it came to a relationship with God, the law actually didn't matter. Because if the law mattered, God wouldn't have had Jesus die. Paul knew that God had Jesus die because Paul knew that Jesus had been raised from the dead. If Jesus got raised from the dead, the only way to get raised from the dead is if God raised him. If God raised him, that shows that God favored him. If God favored him, then his death must have been something God planned. His death must be some kind of sacrifice for others. But that means that it's the sacrifice of Jesus that matters, not the law. And so Paul came to think that people could be right with God, could have salvation apart from the law by believing in the death and resurrection of Jesus. And so Paul saw himself as the apostle to the Gentiles. He wanted to convert Gentiles, and he did. He started his Gentile mission. Paul converted Gentiles, and Paul had much more success than his counterparts who were trying to convert Jews. Mainly Gentiles were converting to Christianity.